The 13th Legendary Hero Summoning event is here! Yes, we've had a whole year of Legendary banners, starting with Fire Emblem last year with the introduction of Book 2. Now, as usual, this banner has a starting 8% focus rate for 5-star units and a 0% non-focus rate. That means if you get any 5 stars, they are guaranteed to be one of these 12 heroes. Sniping for one specific unit will be tougher, but if you just want any new 5 stars, then these are good banners to roll. This banner starts in a few days time and will last until the 4th or 5th of December, so you have about a week to gather some orbs. A reminder that the December monthly quests are right around the corner. After 1 year since being introduced to Fjorm, we can finally reunite the Nifl family thanks to Hrid finally making his appearance. The oldest prince of Nifl is a sword cavalry unit, and even though we just had Legendary Erica, Hrid's got some cool moves to showcase. At the time of this video, we do not know his exact stats just yet, so some things will be up in the air about how good he turns out. We do know at least he will be another wind elemental hero, and his bonus is defense. Let's talk about his new skills first, because Hrid's whole kit is pretty darn good, at least from a glance. I have no clue how to actually pronounce Hrid's sword, but I'm gonna call it Gjöll for this video. Gjöll is a 16 might sword, and it also adds a flat +3 attack. Gjöll's effect is that if the enemy Hrid is fighting is inflicted by a penalty like panic or threaten, and or is afflicted by a negative status effect such as preventing counterattacks or restricting movement, then Hrid gets a guaranteed follow-up and the foe is prevented a follow-up. This is pretty easy to follow. Hrid wants to fight dirty and wants to attack enemies who are already weakened by any type of bad penalty. This can be stat debuffs, the panic status, gravity, the dazzling effect from staffs, maybe even trilemma. If the enemy has any of these negative effects, then Hrid will double them and also prevent their doubles, just like how a breaker skill works. The game has definitely improved ways to debuff enemies, especially for dagger units and healers who can affect wide areas all at once. The chill type B skills are perfect since they are basically unavoidable, and the smoke type skills can give any unit the ability to debuff a bunch of enemies. With essentially a 19 might sword, if Hrid gets to attack twice without worrying about speed checks, then I'm sure he will be dishing out a ton of damage. He also technically becomes a bit tankier since he can prevent a guaranteed follow-up from his opponent, or at the very least cancel skills like Bolt Fighter. Hrid is pretty similar to Gunthra in that target selection is very important, and he wants to be fighting enemies who are already at a disadvantage. Speaking of similarities, Hrid's unique B skill is called Freezing Seal. At the start of the turn, if Hrid has at least 50% of his HP, he inflicts a -6 attack and speed debuff on the enemy with the lowest res stat. This parallels Gunthra's Chilling Seal B skill, which actually also debuffs an enemy with -6 attack and speed, except it targets the foe with the lowest defense instead. Since Freezing Seal is basically a chill type skill, Hrid will always have a debuffed enemy that can activate Gjöll for him. Of course, it doesn't guarantee Hrid can get to that unit, but still it's a nice perk, and he can still support the team by debuffing the enemy's offensive stats. Hrid plays very similarly to Gunthra in that he will love a team that can apply debuffs so that he can take advantage of them. He also has the advantage of being able to use status effects too, such as panic. Keep in mind that Gjöll can work nicely for both player phase offensive moves or for defensive enemy phase baiting. It's similar to Hector's Omni Breaker niche, except Hrid can go on the offensive too. Overall, Gjöll and Freezing Seal make a great base kit so far. Things aren't over yet because we have to talk about the rest of Hrid's base kit. His special is Moonbow, and since with Gjöll he gets a guaranteed follow-up attack, it means Hrid will activate Moonbow on his second attack as long as the enemy hits him one time. In a big surprise, his A skill is actually just Distant Counter. This allows Hrid to counterattack from range if necessary, and that is very good when used with Gjöll. Gjöll can potentially act like Quick Riposte, and with Distant Counter, Hrid should have a very decent enemy phase. Stats will be important here because if Hrid can be similar to Fjorm with both good defense and res, then he should be a great Distant Counter user. If anything, you may want to start summoning for him just for Distant Counter itself. Hrid's C skill is Attack Smoke, which can be gotten from 4-star Kaze, so it's not a huge need for skill inheritance reasons. However, Attack Smoke is really good for Hrid because of Gjöll. Imagine Freezing Seal hits one enemy, and that is the only enemy with a debuff. If Hrid can attack that enemy, he gets his follow-ups from Gjöll, and then Attack Smoke hits that enemy's nearby allies. Then on the enemy phase, Hrid is set because everyone is debuffed, and now he can go to town with Gjöll and Distant Counter. It's actually a very well put together base kit, and despite whatever his stats may be, Hrid is looking like a very fun unit right out of the box. My overall impressions is that Hrid is sort of like a combination of all of his sisters. He can apply debuffs like Ogre, and his overall playstyle around debuffs is similar to Gunthra. He has Distant Counter like Fjorm, and is looking like a decent enemy phase unit too. We'll have to see Hrid's full stat line to get a better picture of his effectiveness, but just from looking at his base kit, he should be a decent unit. Distant counter is pretty awesome, and the fact that Gjöll also prevents follow-ups is a very nice bonus. I'm hesitant about diving back into red summoning hell after last month, but Hrid is laying on the temptation real hard. Of course, Hrid is not the only hero in this banner, and oh boy does he have some good company. In the top left, our red units are Hrid, Legendary Ryoma, and Levitine. To the right, our blue units are Legendary Lucina, Brave Hector, and Summer Cordelia. Green is Gunthra, Vimokana, and Summer Innis. Last, we have Legendary Female Grima, again, Summer Nor, and Nina. Now, let's look at all the skills from these units, as well as just a short rundown on each of them, and if they are worth summoning. Starting with red, we don't have to go over Hrid again, but he has a major skill for inheriting, and that is Distant Counter. Even if you don't care about Hrid at all, he is very valuable as a unit thanks to Distant Counter. Attack Smoke is good too, but I would not sacrifice him for that over Distant Counter. The second red unit is actually Legendary Ryoma, and I think this is the first time we've had two legendary heroes of the same color at the same time. This is fine because Legendary Ryoma is a beast with 34 attack and 39 speed, easily the most offensive sword flyer. He still has Raijinto, and it can be paired with Kestra's Stance, which gives +4 attack and speed when attacked first. This is more of a defensive playstyle, and while it's nice to have, Ryoma doesn't have the greatest res to tank mages, and since he is a flyer, Ryoma will also get destroyed by archers. Basically, I don't think he makes a great distant counter user, and I've mentioned before that he makes for a ridiculous Fire Sweep Sword unit. His Bushido B skill grants +10 damage on special procs, and Ryoma is crazy with a Fire Sweep Sword, Bushido, Heavy Blade, and a 2-turn special like Glimmer or Moonbow. Kestra's Stance is an okay A skill to inherit, and Guidance is a good support skill to help out infantry and armor allies. Overall, Ryoma doesn't have the best skills to inherit, but he is a great unit. The last sword user is Levitine, who is quite a monster. Her sword with the same name is the only Blade Tome sword, and she can stack her attack to insane levels with it. Levitine hits very hard, and she is actually pretty tanky too with 35 base defense. Fury 3 is always a good skill, but Levitine also has Tag and Defense Link and Odd Speed Wave, both which are rarer skills. Levitine actually makes use of both of these skills quite well, but they are both good for inheriting too. The red group is really good once again, and all of these units are great to get. Skill inheritance wise, Ryoma doesn't have the most versatile skills, but Hrid with Distant Counter and Levitine's whole kit make up for it. If you want Hrid, this is a pretty good time to try and get him. For blue, our legendary hero is Lucina. Lucina is a blue archer, and she gets a ton of stats when fighting melee units with her bow Thogan. Future Vision is her unique assist skill, and it's very cool. It's basically just swap, but after using it, Lucina gets to move again. She can use Future Vision defensively or offensively, and it's a very unique skill. With Swift Sparrow, she gets even more attack and speed, and on top of her already good attack and speed base stats, legendary Lucina can be quite a threat. Wings of Mercy can be used with Future Vision, and Distant Guard helps support her allies from ranged attacks. If you don't want to use Lucina or have extra copies, then she is decent skill fodder. Next is Brave Hector, which means I'm sure more Choose Your Legends 2 heroes are on the way in the future. Brave Hector's Mautet gives him cooldown reduction and a stronger quick riposte effect. His Ostian counter is Distant Counter that also grants +4 attack and defense. Sadly, it's not inheritable. His other skills are Bold Fighter and Even Res Wave, which are both great. Bold Fighter is obviously very sought after, and the wave skills are nice because they can self-buff the user. As an armored lance unit with Distant Counter, Brave Hector is very good and definitely worth chasing after. Last is Summer Cordelia, who is an insanely fast Lance Cavalier. 32 attack and 38 base speed is pretty good, and Cordelia is all about melee combat. Her inheritable Shell Lance grants +2 stats when initiating, and that pairs with Sturdy Blow, which adds +4 attack and defense too. Summer Cordelia is the only unit with Dull Close, which completely nullifies melee units' field buffs, and that's pretty powerful. I don't know if Cordelia is the best user of Dull Close, but I think it would be decent in the hands of a more defensive unit. Overall, blue is good because Legendary Lucina and Brave Hector are both good units to have. Cordelia is a good offensive cavalier, but she doesn't have anything super unique. This group does have good skills to inherit, such as Swift Sparrow, Distant Guard, Bold Fighter, Even Res Wave, and maybe Dull Close. Not a bad group at all. Our green group is represented by Gunthra, who is ready to support her brother. Gunthra is a green mage cavalier, which is quite rare in this game. Her Blizzard Tome is like a reverse Blade Tome in that it adds attack based on the total number of debuffs on the enemy. Her Chilling Seal applies a -6 attack and speed debuff to the enemy with the lowest defense, which means if Gunthra were to attack them with Blizzard, she would gain +12 attack in total. Gunthra and Hrid would work really well together. She even has Res Ploy, but with only 25 base resistance, she won't be hitting a ton of units out there. Fortress Res helps, but it's completely outclassed by Fortress Defense and Resistance. As for female Kana, she is a green infantry dragon. Her base 34 speed is pretty good and she is quite balanced all around. Her skills are pretty valuable, so definitely be happy if you have extra copies. Water Breath is an inheritable dragon breath that grants +4 defense and res when attacked first. This is really strong with pure defensive builds, and it also pairs with Fierce Stance, which gives +6 attack when attacked. Gold Dragons is only on female Kana, so if you want to build a Dragon Emblem team with wards and goads, then Kana is a must. Water Breath and Gold Dragons are both really good for skill inheritance, and Fierce Stance can be pretty fun too. Last is Summer Innis, who is a flying axe unit. His 33 attack and 37 speed is really impressive because there pretty much aren't any other great offensive axe flyers. Summer Innis fills that role with his good attack and speed, plus his HP and defense are fine for getting into melee brawls. His weapon is the Beach Banner Plus, which is an inheritable axe that also grants plus to all stats when initiating combat. Rally attack and defense can be gotten from reward units, but I wouldn't say that makes it an easy skill to get. Innis also has the very niche defense feint skill. I feel like the feint skills kinda got forgotten, and while they may not be very common, I can see them now having a place in 8th raids. Defense feint inflicts a -7 defense debuff in all cardinal directions from Innis after either he uses a rally skill or a rally skill is used on him. This isn't a bad effect, but it's definitely tough to put into practice consistently. As for gold flyers, that's very easy to get from Paula. The green group isn't as crazy as red or blue, but it's not that bad. Kana has some good skills, and Gunther and Innis are both fairly unique for their classes. I'm still waiting for a Fire Sweep axe from my Summer Innis, who would absolutely love it. At this point, we might go a whole year before we get another colorless legendary hero. As much as I don't want to see legendary female Grima every month, she is still a really good unit. The only colorless flying dragon, and she is decently fast with balanced defenses. Her Expiration Breath comes with distant counter, and her unique A skill Dragon Skin protects her from arrows and gives her some extra defense and res. Wrist Smoke is still only from female Grima, I believe, and I still think it's a strong skill. If you don't want to use Grima, then Res Smoke is her best skill to inherit. Next we have Summer Noir, who is a decent offensive archer with 32 attack and 36 speed. She even comes with +2 attack and speed as her ace skill. The Coco Bow is still a really cool looking bow, and like the other summer weapons, it grants +2 to all stats when attacking. Infantry Rush is a big skill from Noir, and it grants Heavy Blade to allies within 2 spaces. This is a neat infantry only skill, and if you like infantry teams, then it might be something you wanted to experiment with. Summer Noir isn't that fancy, but she is still a solid archer. Last is Nina, who is similar to Noir with her 32 attack and 37 speed. Nina has great offensive stats, but she has an incredibly low defense. Her res is a decent 31, so Nina can deal with mages a bit more effectively. Her Shining Bow is inheritable and it grants +7 true damage if her foe has a defense stat 5 points higher than their res stat. This allows Nina to get some extra damage against high defense enemies. The Shining Bow may also find a unique build with the new Sorcery Blade A skill that grants adaptive damage. This would let an archer tackle high defense foes better by using adaptive damage to target their low res, and then you also get the Shining Bow's extra +7 damage on top of it. Nina even has a free A slot if you want to try it out on her. Now Nina's B skill is Speed and Res Link, which is only held by her. The extra speed and resistance would help her fight mages even better or buff an ally. As for Bow Valor, it does grant 2 times SP to all archers on the team, but it's just a quality of life skill and not a combat skill at all. Colorless may not seem that exciting, but it's also not that bad. The Shining Bow is cool, and Infantry Rush is also fun to mess around with, but both have limited uses. Colorless doesn't have anything super outstanding, so I wouldn't feel the need to summon unless you really want these specific characters. That wraps up this Legendary Hero Summoning event. In my opinion, red is super tempting because even if you don't get Hrid, you get Legendary Ryoma, who is an awesome red flyer, or you get Levatine with her Blade. Blue is another good color, and then I would place green and colorless into the not bad but not must summon boat. This is a decent legendary banner by most standards. As a reminder, with the Ilger and Surtur banner that is still going on, the two of them also have really good skills to inherit. Ilger with her new Sorcery Blade, Chill Speed, and Speed Tactic, Surtur with the Steady Stance 4 if you're looking for some good defensive tanking. I also want to mention that we are pretty much less than a month away from this year's Christmas banner. I feel like last year set the tone of the game for the entire year with the power creeped army units and introducing the stupidly overpowered Bolt Fighter and Vengeful Fighter B skills. Sadly, I would not be surprised to see Bolt Fighter 4 or another new armor only skill like Special Fighter. Maybe we can avoid that mess this year, but I highly doubt it. Gacha games always go all out during the holiday season. Thanks for watching, hope you can summon whoever you're looking for, and I'll see you guys in the next video.